On this episode of Under the Radar, we're back in Southeast Michigan for a thrilling event where people run outside when they hear thunder. We'll also visit a place with strange creatures from planet Earth and introduce you to a homegrown publisher who's helping Michigan authors. We'll even show you a super chef whose greatest creations are the chefs of tomorrow. Get ready to explore the cool people, places, and things that make Southeast Michigan a great place to be.
Under the Radar Michigan is brought to you in part by the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, investing in people, places, and partnerships to help transform Michigan and the Michigan economy. In cities, towns, and neighborhoods, people are building better places to live and better communities.
We all have one, that perfect spot, a special place we go to smooth out the ripples of the day. Our perfect spot is calling. Our perfect spot is pure Michigan. Your trip begins at michigan.org.
And by Big B Coffee, celebrating 18 years as a Michigan company. Gift cards, mugs, and coffee by the pound available in store and online. Franchise info available at biggby.com. The Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure series raises funds and awareness in the breast cancer fight, celebrates survivorship, and honors those who have lost their battle. Everyone is welcome. Find a Komen Race for the Cure in more than 140 cities at komen.org.
I've been around the world, but there's one place I keep coming back to. And the more I explore, the more I realize it's the place to be. I'm Tom Dalton, and this is Under the Radar, Michigan. If you're looking for a place to live, work, and play that'll satisfy your mind, body, and spirit, Southeast Michigan is the place you should be. Hey, look, I'm there now.
Now, on this program, we've shown you tons of great reasons to check out this part of Michigan. And guess what? We've got 4 more.
You know, normally when you hear thunder, you grab the family and you run inside. But when you hear this kind of thunder, you grab the family, hop in the car, and drive to Ypsilanti. Excuse me. How do you start this thing?
The Thunder Over Michigan Air Show is one of the premier air shows in the entire world and features some of the rarest and most fascinating flying machines made by man. This amazing aeronautic spectacle takes place every August at the Willow Run Airport, home of the historic Yankee Air Museum, where you can totally lose yourself in the history of the warbirds built on this very site. As the props were firing up, I had a chance to chat with event director Kevin Walsh. To say he flies high with enthusiasm for this event is a huge understatement.
First of all, I can't even imagine what it takes to pull off an air show of this size. I mean, how much coffee do you have to drink?
I'll tell you, well, you know, first off, you got to thank the volunteers that do this show. There's over 500 dedicated volunteers every year that put this thing together. And, you know, it doesn't matter what the coordinators come up with, what we dream up. Those volunteers, they deserve all the credit. And they're the ones that make it happen to put on a show this size in Ypsilanti.
Now, how long has this show been going on?
This is our 16th year. We started in 1989 with a symposium and a couple of warbirds. We never thought it would get this big. It sort of just became an overnight success. And again, the dedication of the volunteers of the Yankee Air Museum and the Thunder Over Michigan crew just keep growing it and growing it and growing it.
Well, a lot of people don't realize, and you can hear the bombers going off in the background. A lot of people don't realize the aviation history that is in Ypsilanti.
Oh, absolutely. This is one of the most historic airfields in the nation. And you start to think about what happened here during World War II and the home front and how Detroit saved the world, producing over 8,600 bombers out of the plant just across the way from where we're talking right now. It is absolutely incredible that the history that's right here in Ypsilanti.
And take a second to explain why people really need to come down to the museum.
The Yankee Air Museum, it's an absolute gem in Michigan. It is one of those just unique places where you're immersed in education, history, and honoring our veterans that have served our country and defended our freedoms all these years.
It really is hard to fathom the amount of effort and coordination that must go into putting on a show like this. But now, it was time to look up to the skies and take in the sights and sounds of all the classic fighters and bombers that were flying so close, you could almost see the faces of the pilots. And just when I thought it couldn't get any cooler, the U.S. Air Force Thunderbirds came screaming overhead in acrobatic and precision flying like I've never seen before. It was an absolutely awesome and incredible way to wrap up a thrilling day at the air show. At least, I thought it was. That's right, our day at Willow Run wasn't over yet, and that's because I got invited to take the ride of a lifetime in a real B-25 bomber. It's called the Yankee Warrior, and it's the last remaining B-25 still flying that actually flew combat missions during World War II. In seat number 1 was Delane Buttacavoli. She's a commercial pilot whose love for classic aviation put her in the captain's seat of this vintage bomber. And as she and co-pilot Bill Clark did their pre-flight preparations, and before the sound of the props took over, we had a chance to talk about this once-in-a-lifetime experience.
So, Delane, before we get in the air, because I understand this is the loudest plane ever made by man, how did you, I mean, when you were a little kid riding your bike around with cards in the spokes, did you ever imagine you would be flying a B-25 bomber?
No, I never dreamed of this.
How did this happen?
A lot of luck, being very blessed, and a little bit of hard work.
Now, I understand this is one of the workhorses of World War II.
It is. It was a medium-range bomber, and it flew in all theaters. Once it got to the Pacific Theater, it became a low-level strafing aircraft.
When you say low, how low do you mean?
I was told by a World War II vet, he was a pilot that flew the B-25, and he said he flew most of his missions at 300 miles per hour and 30 feet above the ground.
That is extraordinary. I have to tell you, too, this wasn't even on my bucket list, but it's so cool. I put it on my bucket list today, and now I get to take it off. Same day. Go figure.
This is an amazing aircraft, and I think General Doolittle said it the best. He said this aircraft is full of grace, and it is. He was correct.
It really gives you appreciation for the men and women that fought during World War II. They really, truly were our greatest generation.
I agree, and it feels like a gift to be able to fly this and take them up for rides and preserve a little bit of history and to educate the kids when they come out and ask questions.
Yeah, this is truly an extraordinary experience that I mean, I'm speechless, which is hard for me.
Yes, I've heard. But I heard it is a once-in-a-lifetime experience, absolutely.
Yeah. When do we get lunch?
Yes, Bill.
I knew there was something I forgot.
He forgot lunch.
There's no meal on this plane?
There's no meal on this plane, but it will be the best flight of your life, I promise you.
Deal.
It's amazing.
Well, before I knew it, we were up in the air. The flight was incredible, loud, and full of emotion and amazement. Flying along at only 1,800 feet, you get the real feel of flying. And you can almost sense the spirit of the brave men who flew these planes into combat. If you're ready for a once-in-a-lifetime, make time in your life for this.
When it comes to the animal kingdom, if you want to have a close encounter of a meaningful kind, I got a place near Ann Arbor where the creatures will be wild about you. See what I mean?
The Creature Conservancy is not a zoo, it's not a nature center, and it's not an animal park. It's a wildlife education center that focuses on creating personal connections between people and some of the rarest and coolest animals you'll ever see. Being my brother-in-law makes Steve Marsh super cool. But what's really cool is that he practically built this place from the ground up.
I love finding out how people got to where they are now. And I know this didn't happen overnight. Was there like a knock at the door and somebody left a homeless squirrel on your doorstep? Or?
Well, it was actually a homeless alligator, and it literally was. I went to unlock the front door to the vet clinic I was working at, and there was a box, a wooden crate, that said, "Beware of alligator" on it, and that's where Al was at.
And that's this alligator?
That's this alligator. He was 3 feet long and 10 pounds when he arrived on our doorstep.
Well, that's what's unique about this place is these animals are all rescued, right?
Virtually all of them are rescue animals. So we're kind of like a rescue zoo. Defining our organization's been hard because we're kind of like a zoo. We have alligators, we have kangaroos, we have emus, we have zoo-like animals. I think if I was going to define the place, I'd honestly say it was a school. I mean, we really heavily do education. We have school groups in here constantly. In fact, Under the Radar is a perfect show to come here because we're really under the radar. We're well known within the school community, but we're just starting to open our doors to the general public.
Well, like you said, what you do is you change people's perceptions about animals by educating them. It's not, people don't just come here and look at the animals. They experience, they learn about them. It's a more overall experience with the animals.
What we try to do is we try to let these people meet some animals, some really interesting animals, tell them about their lives, and realize that there are a lot of similarities. I mean, skunks have a social life, and alligators communicate to each other over long distances, subsonically. So we tell them the cool facts about these animals, and they develop an interest in these animals, and they have less fear about these animals.
I understand you can talk to the animals. One question, do they talk back?
We don't discuss that publicly.
Aha, I knew it.
Well, enough talking about talking to animals. Time to actually talk to some animals.
What is it?
It's a giant toad, you silly man.
Do they talk?
Boys do a little chirping. That's about it. This is a girl.
Usually the girls talk more. I didn't say that, did I? Don't worry. Whoa! You missed me. Oh my gosh, I don't think I've ever gone that much. Well, they say animals are unpredictable. Oh, now she weighs about a pound.
Well, that went well.
What is this, and can I touch him?
Absolutely.
Right.
It's a 3-banded armadillo. Got 3 bands across his back. One of the smaller species of armadillos. One of the coolest ones because they can do something no other armadillo can do.
What, bite?
Yeah, they have vicious teeth.
Do they have?
No, they
don't tell me this stuff.
But they can curl up into a ball
Yeah.
and completely hide their head in the middle of the ball. Okay, I'm gonna hand you this one. I'm gonna get a different one.
Why? Oh, what? Am I holding it right? Oh my gosh, look!
Here we
look
go.
Look at this. It's like a softball.
Yin yang, the thing going on.
Hello, everybody. Does he have eyes? Oh yeah, there they are. Oh,
yeah, they're not really great vision. They don't see all that.
I don't think he's enjoying this. That one obviously is taking a nap. He's fine.
Yeah.
I'm gonna put this one back
Sure.
down.
Yeah, put it back in there.
I want to hold one that. Is he asleep?
No, he's just curled up.
That is amazing.
Yeah, really fun animals to talk about. Fun animals for programs.
Steve and a passionate army of volunteers are rescuing animals and educating humans all in a safe, fun, and fascinating environment. If you want a meaningful meeting with some of the world's most exotic animals, the Creature Conservancy in Ann Arbor should be your next expedition. And who knows, you might even see the rare, elusive, and endangered TV show host. Don't worry, they're not smart enough to bite.
Oh, there you are. You know, if you're a Michigan author and you're looking for a Michigan publisher, we found a great one for you. Actually, she found us. Darn it, they printed this one upside down.
Jennifer Baum heads up Scribe Publishing Company. And when it came time to write the UTR book, if it wasn't for Jennifer, it might not have happened. We met up with Jennifer at one of our favorite classic bookstores, the Book Nook in downtown Monroe.
I'm really curious, were you a bookworm when you were a kid?
I was guilty.
So how did you get hooked on publishing?
So I've had a background in writing and editing, and I've always liked working on books, but in Michigan, there's not very much publishing here. So about 4 or 5 years ago, I was doing a lot of freelance work, editing books and helping authors with their marketing plans. And one day I was just rambling on to my husband about how excited I was to be doing this kind of work, and he said, well, why don't you start a publishing company? And a light bulb just went off in my head, and I couldn't stop thinking about that. So I'm doing all this research. What does it take? What do I need to do to start that up? And at that time, I knew little enough about the publishing industry to just dive right in.
To be dangerous, right?
Yeah.
Well, tell the story about how, I mean, people have been saying to us ever since we started the show, you guys should do a book. And then all of a sudden we get this call from you, and that's what's wonderful. You found us.
Right. So, again, I have to talk about my husband. He and I have watched your show for years, probably since it's been on. And he comes home one day and says, hey, I checked the Under the Radar website. They don't have a book out. Maybe they'd want to work with you. And again, I'm foolish enough to say, okay, wait, let's give it a shot.
The reckless abandon. I'll just call them, which you did. And
Mm-hmm.
thank goodness, because we probably never would have gotten it accomplished if it wasn't for you.
And that was part of my motivation in setting up the company. I was finding, before I started the company, I was working with a lot of writers who had amazing projects and they were getting rejection after rejection. And it just felt like there had to be another way, like something different than the big 5 publishers in New York. And when I was starting off, it made sense to start with Michigan writers because I'm here and it's easy to work with them and talk to them. It just made sense to start local.
What I personally love about you is your positive energy. You're so organized. You're so deadline driven. You made this happen. And if it wasn't for you, it never would have happened. So I appreciate everything you've done for us.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome.
Jennifer sure must know what she's doing because half of the books she's published have won national awards. And it's easy to see why, especially when you spend time with some of her authors. Authors like S.J. Lomas.
Dream Girl, that's such a great, let me guess, it's about a girl.
It is. It is about a 17-year-old girl who gets sucked into a dream world that becomes increasingly dangerous, and it's her job to figure out what's going on and how to make it stop.
Where do you see the future of books?
Well, I like to think that print books are still going to stick around. I'm also a librarian as my day job, and I prefer print books. There are a lot of people that ask for ebooks, but people in general want to hear stories. So in some form, there will be books.
By the way, people keep telling me I should get a day job. So.
Could be overrated.
And when it came time for a book that was a long time in the making, Paul Flower took the cake and the ice cream.
When did you start writing it?
25, 30 years ago.
I got to hear this story.
I was in advertising. I've been in advertising for 30 years as a writer and creative director. And my dream was always to be, as some people say, a real writer. And I was writing fiction on the side, but I could never get it published because at the time, you couldn't get a publisher to look at your book unless you had an agent. And you couldn't get an agent unless you had a publisher.
Right. Well, that's what Jennifer was telling me, that with the big publishing houses, it's sometimes almost impossible even to get looked at.
Right. I had a pretty large file of rejections over 25 or 30 years, so I sort of put the book aside. I kept coming back to it. And one day when I was really desperate for freelance work, I was online perusing Craigslist, and I found Scribe Publishing.
Well, so, I mean, I love your story. 25 years in the making. It's the redeeming power of brain surgery. It doesn't sounds that's so festive. I mean, what's it about?
It's an up family laugh romp. No, it's actually about twin brothers. They are in their 50s. One's a successful Chicago brain surgeon, hence the title. And the other's kind of a redneck Southwest Michigan guy. They're twin brothers, and there's a secret, and it's a really, really bad secret about their childhood. And the brother from Chicago has come home to make sure it stays secret.
Quite simply put, if you have words in your head and you want to turn them into a book, read up on Jennifer Baum and Scribe Publishing Company. She'll even check your spelling and make you sound more good like me. And just ask her. That wasn't easy.
You know, there's a lot of great chefs all across Michigan making some really creative food. But here's a great chef who's helping to make future great chefs. He's pretty great, too.
Brian Polson is what you might call a super chef. He's published, highly decorated, has opened a half-dozen successful gourmet restaurants, perfected the ancient art of charcuterie, and still finds time to teach and inspire young chefs at Schoolcraft College's state-of-the-art facility right here in Livonia. When it comes to the enlightened food movement sweeping the country, this guy is in perpetual motion.
Well, first of all, Chef, I had no idea that the scope of the program here at Schoolcraft. How many kids do you have go through the program every semester?
We have 192. That includes the bacon and pastry program.
Explain the feeling that you get when these kids graduate.
Well, most of them disappoint me. Yeah, you heard that? No, I'm just kidding. You know, it's really interesting to see a young mind get developed. Like, they are not masters when they leave the program. But what we do is give them the fundamentals and foundation. That's one of the lectures I give, is that they have to build that. I don't think you can be a great chef till you're 40 years old anyhow. And what they have is they get kick-started here. We train the students to be proficient thinkers, and that's what a good chef is. You have to go through critical thinking, understanding your ingredients. You know, one of the first talents we teach them is how to identify quality ingredients, because one of the secrets of great cooking is you start with really quality ingredients. Now, in 5 weeks, they're not going to become master charcutiers. That's what I teach, charcuterie and butchery. And your next question is, explain to me what charcuterie is.
Yeah, there's a lot of people
First, you got to be able to pronounce it.
Well, yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, it was just a couple of years ago that Jim and Eric on a shoot were talking about charcuterie, and I go, charcuterie, what's that? Yeah. I had to go off and Google it and find out what it was. So there's still a lot of people. Explain what charcuterie is.
Yeah, charcuterie is the method of preserving food before the refrigerator. So if you think about it, how long has the refrigerator been on Earth?
100 years, maybe.
120 years,
yeah.
Right? How long's food been on Earth?
A lot longer.
Yeah. So it's the craft of salting, curing, smoking, sausage making, and to me, it's the coolest part of the kitchen. I mean, any really good chef or really good cook will look at you and say, they love charcuterie, because charcuterie is soul. It's got soul to it. And there's magic.
And you actually wrote the encyclopedia on charcuterie.
Yeah, that book, I mean, I was turned down by 5 publishers, and they said, charcuterie is a narrow subject, nobody will buy the book, right? And they told me, and that was my first book, so they said that a typical cookbook sells 12,000 copies. If you did really good stuff, you could hit 20,000. If you got a TV show like Mario Batali, there'd be 100,000 copies. That book's now at like 220.
Oh, wow, it's crazy. If you're wondering where charcuterie goes to become, well, awesome, it's the dungeon of dry deliciousness. And they've got one right here in the kitchen.
All right, so I've told you about some of the stuff we do here, but why I think that this classroom is the coolest classroom in the entire program is because I told you earlier about the magic we create. Yeah. And this is part of it right here. This is a drying room. Yeah. This is, you know, we do all small batches. We'll take this out and taste it. This is ready. So this has been in here since 4/7, which is what, 20 days. So this is called a Landjäger. This is from Switzerland. This is Calabria. This is like for your wife. Sopressata. We've got cold smoked andouille. And a lot of the stuff we make, too, is meant to be ingredients to use in other dishes, right? So like think of the national dish of Spain, paella. How would you make that without chorizo? Or the beautiful gumbo or jambalaya in Louisiana cooking without tasso ham and andouille. Right. Unbelievable. But it's these ingredients that enhance the flavor of other things.
It was instantly obvious why Chef Polson is so revered in the culinary community and why his passion and personality inspire so many young people. Not only are they getting an amazing education, they seem to be having a ton of fun at the same time.
So you're working with chicken?
Yep.
How do you do charcuterie with chicken?
Well, this is the chicken sausage. It's got basil and tomato in it, so that's the main base of the sausage. Normally we use pork and stuff like that, but this one's just using chicken.
What made you want to be a chef?
I've loved cooking since I was little. My dad and I used to cook together all the time, so I decided I had to work with them and kind of convince my parents to let me go to culinary school, but you know, I've loved it since I was young.
Well, I've loved eating since I was little, so we should start a place.
Okay, that's perfect.
You mentioned measing. He explained that earlier. I wasn't really paying attention. What's measing again?
Mise en place means everything in its place.
Oh!
So, like, literally, you have everything ready, so you just go. Would you like a sample?
Oui. That's French talk for you.
It's gonna be really hot.
Here, eat this. It'll be really, really hot.
At least we warned you.
It's really, really good, too.
Are you just saying that?
No. That's no in French. No. So what is this what the chef hits you guys with?
Yeah, you know, we don't always act right, and...
What is it? Oh,
it's fair, though. It's fair. I mean, you know, I deserved it.
You're right. Well, what are you making?
This is Mexican chorizo.
Oh, I've had it before. It's awesome.
It is. It's one of my favorites. It's one of the few sausages that we actually don't we don't case up. It's traditionally left loose.
Right.
You can use it in applications. A lot of times you add it to eggs. You can stuff it in a poblano pepper, roasted. You can do anything with it. I eat it just plain. I love this stuff.
That's what I do with it. I eat it. Yeah.
I learned more about charcuterie and food preparation from Chef Polson and these young people than I ever have before. And when all was said and class was done, we enjoyed the meats, breads, vegetables, and fruits of the students' labor at the American Harvest restaurant. It's a great experience I highly recommend you try. So if you want to create a great quality of life, or even just a fun adventure for your family, check out the creative people, places, and things of Southeast Michigan. I mean, where else can you fly like an eagle, play like an animal, write your own destiny, and even find future food fit for a king? You tell me. Hey folks, you want to become part of the League of Extraordinary UTR Super Friends? It's super easy. Just go to utrmichigan.com. You can watch episodes, tell us where to go next, get information on all the places we've been, and even get UTR wearables like I'm sporting right here. Oh, and you can even get our new book, Under the Radar, the First 50, featuring our first 50 episodes and DVDs of all of our shows. So become a UTR Super Friend today. Go to utrmichigan.com. It's super cool and super easy.
Under the Radar Michigan is brought to you in part by the Michigan State Housing Development Authority, investing in people, places, and partnerships to help transform Michigan and the Michigan economy. In cities, towns, and neighborhoods, people are building better places to live and better communities.
We all have one, that perfect spot, a special place we go to smooth out the ripples of the day. Our perfect spot is calling. Our perfect spot is pure Michigan. Your trip begins at michigan.org.
And And by Big B Coffee, celebrating 18 years as a Michigan company. Gift cards, mugs, and coffee by the pound available in store and online. Franchise info available at biggby.com. The Susan G. Komen Race for the Cure series raises funds and awareness in the breast cancer fight, celebrates survivorship, and honors those who have lost their battle. Everyone is welcome. Find a Komen Race for the Cure in more than 140 cities at komen.org.
Another really cool thing about this experience is, while you're in flight, they actually let you crawl through this very narrow passageway up to the bombardier's office, is what they call it. This is where the guy would actually sit and drop the bombs, shoot the machine guns. I won't be doing that today because I'm not qualified. Plus, I like everybody down there, but this is an absolutely incredible place to be during flight. You just got to squeeze through that little tube down there, but no problem. I did it lickety-split. Okay? I got your blood on my pants. Oh, he got both legs coming up here. Get the GoPro. With the window open, it's not bad up here. Oh, I wanted to get up here so bad while we were flying.
I spot that. I got this great shot of you coming in for landing, of the shadow coming up towards us.